excuse me? It's confusing, right? I definitely don't see Singaporeans kissing on the cheek. Why does everyone keep saying sorry? I don't know why we like sandwiches so much. We need that vitamin D. We're completely deprived. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all well. If you are new here, hello, my name is Georgia and I am a Brit who has been living in Singapore for the past 6 years. I create lots of content about my life here in Singapore, so if you want to see more from me, do be sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you want to find me on Instagram, you can go give me a follow at The Vintage Vision. So in previous videos, I have talked an awful lot about Singaporean habits and my observations, but today I thought we would switch it up, and I asked you guys on Instagram if you have lived or studied in the UK and you are Singaporean to let me know what weird British habits you guys came across whilst in the UK and just didn't understand. So just before we get started, today's video is kindly sponsored by Skillshare. So for those of you who don't know, Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creatives and just curious people in general. Classes on Skillshare include illustration and design, business development, video editing, photography and freelancing, so there are plenty of creative classes to choose from. Personally, for the last few weeks I have been working on self-discovery and growth, and I've actually come to realise the power of journaling when it comes to mindfulness, self-reflection and cultivating confidence. So I've been watching a class on Skillshare called Writing for Self-Discovery by Yasmin Chayan, and it's been really insightful, and I found that journaling has just been great for kind of clearing the mind. So for the first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the Skillshare link in the description box below will get a free 2-month premium membership to Skillshare so you can explore your creativity. So without further ado, let's go and get on with the video. Okay, so the first one, I got a lot of people saying that Brits tell the time funny, so having to read the time as quarter past instead of 12:15 for example, or half past, or quarter to 1 instead of 1, no, I can't tell the time, quarter to 1 instead of 12:45. Yes, this is typically how Brits read the time. I have no idea why, but when I first moved here and I would be like, oh, it's 1:15, it's 20 to 5. Singaporeans would look at me like, excuse me, what are you saying? So I definitely had to start reading the time differently. I could understand how that could be very confusing for Singaporeans when they first move to the UK if you're not used to telling the time that way. Someone said not eating out as often, takeaways are much more expensive than hawker food. Absolutely, I would say in general people just seem to cook at home in the UK a lot more. It seems to be a lot more common. I think, like you said, because eating out can be really expensive, it's certainly something that I didn't really do when I lived back in the UK. You would just always make food at home. I think that's because going to the supermarket, the food is just so much cheaper in the UK. So if you want to make like a pasta dish in Singapore, for example, you could end up going to the supermarket and spending maybe $40+ just on the ingredients to make that pasta dish, whereas it's so much more affordable in the UK to buy groceries, so you generally just cook at home a lot more. Saying that, hawker centres here are super cheap, and obviously we don't have those in the UK, so yeah, I think typically people do cook more at home. Not taking shoes off in the house, of course, we have spoken about this quite a few times. As we've mentioned previously, Justin and I have been completely converted into the Asian lifestyle, where we make sure we take off our shoes before we enter the house, whereas back home it's not really as common. Some people will ask you to take your shoes off, but a lot of people do still wear shoes in the house in the UK, which obviously can be seen as very unhygienic. That's how we kind of view it nowadays anyway. So yeah, not taking shoes off. Talking about the weather 24/7. Yes, I don't know why we do it, but we do. Brits just love talking about the weather. We're never happy about the weather either. If it's raining, we'll say how miserable it is. If it's really hot and sunny, we'll be saying it's too hot and we wish it was cooler. Like, we're just never satisfied. But because the weather changes almost every day, and in one day it could go from being hot to torrential rain, like the weather is just up and down, very unpredictable, and I think for that reason it's just like a hot topic and a talking point for Brits. We're just always talking about the weather. A lot of you have talked about apologising unnecessarily, and this is another thing that Brits do a lot. You'll probably hear us say sorry very, very often. I know I started doing it when I started my job here. My boss would be like, it's okay, you don't need to keep saying sorry. But for some reason, we just feel like we have to apologize for something. Like when we don't understand something, we'll say sorry. When we just maybe slightly bump into someone, we'll say sorry. Often we don't even need to be sorry because it's not our fault, but we'll end up apologizing for it anyway. I don't know why we're like this. I guess it's just the whole politeness thing. I could understand that Singaporeans might be like, why does everyone keep saying sorry? What this makes me want to do now is really, like, I just really want to go home and meet loads of Singaporeans. I think it would be so fun just to get like their perspective of what life is like in the UK, because I never met any Singaporeans when I lived back home. This is something that I totally like forgot that I used to do. Someone said I say pardon quite often and Singaporeans would make fun of it. I think this is actually the opposite, so this person isn't Singaporean, but I could understand how that could get confusing. I also remember saying pardon a lot when I first moved here, and pardon isn't really, not really a thing in Singapore. So what it turned into was ha. If you say ha, then that basically means like what. So I ended up saying ha and what a lot more than pardon or what did you say. It's almost like your manners just go out the window. So yeah, I beg your pardon. I don't really say pardon anymore. I do say like ha or what. Singaporeans made me rude. All my manners have gone. I've had a lot of comments about you're right, and I understand how this could be very confusing. So instead of saying like how are you, a lot of the time in the UK we'll say you're right, which is like you all right, or just all right. It's just like how are you doing, like you're right. But sometimes you're right doesn't really need an answer. It's just like an acknowledgement, like hello. So you say hi and you'd be like you're right. So not every time would you have to reply and be like, yeah, I'm fine, how are you? It's more just like an acknowledgement. So I can see how that one could be kind of confusing. I don't say you're right here anymore because I just wouldn't be understood. Even if I say how are you here, that's very strange. Like no one really says, like Singaporeans don't really say how are you. So yeah, you're right, it's just like, how you doing? A lot of comments about cold sandwiches, and this makes me laugh because I'm just thinking, who eats hot sandwiches? What's a hot sandwich? Do you mean like a toasty? I guess like a hot baguette. But yes, cold sandwiches, sandwich culture in general in the UK is like the standard go-to lunch, and now in hindsight it's incredibly bland. And although meal deals are life, if you don't know what meal deals are, you're missing out. I do miss a good meal deal. We eat lots of sandwiches, all kinds of sandwiches. It's just like a quintessential British lunch, go-to, a sandwich. I don't know why we like sandwiches so much. Where did that come from? 2 taps, having 2 taps instead of 1 tap. Now this wasn't something that I ever really thought about until recently, and I was like, oh my god, yeah. If you go into a UK bathroom, typically there'll be a hot tap and a cold tap, so there'll be 2 taps. Whereas in Singapore, we just have 1 tap, which you can like alternate the temperature. But for some reason in the UK, there's 2 different taps. So you can never have like the same temperature coming out of 1 tap. I have no idea, like, I mean, I don't know the details of our plumbing systems, but in hindsight, yeah, that is really strange that we don't just have 1 tap with like a certain temperature of water. How strange is that? A couple of comments about striking conversation with random people and just politeness in general. I would say that yes, in comparison to Singapore, people are probably definitely more approachable and polite. We have a lot of pleases and thank yous, and you know, holding the door open for people, which is something that you just don't really see in Singapore, and can be frustrating sometimes when the door is constantly just like closed on your face and you're like, thanks for holding the door open for me. It's just not really a thing here. Okay, this one is another one that made me laugh. Ending text with X, which is like a kiss. I never knew why, I just followed it because it seems to upset people when I don't do it. So this made me think like, oh my god, yeah, maybe we do that. So basically X is just like a kiss, right? So when we text people, we might be like, how's it going? Kiss. Good, thanks, you. And they put like a kiss on the end as well. It's like an endearment thing, like you're just leaving them a kiss. at the end of everything you say, but definitely unnecessary. I don't think you need to, like, I personally don't do it. I don't do it at the end of every message, but I know that a lot of people do. It's basically just like a friendly thing, but I don't know why people do it on every message. Someone said when you don't switch on the heater during winter. This is funny because we all know, well, we don't all know, British winters can get very, very cold, and I think maybe the only reason someone wouldn't turn it on is for maybe because of bills. Like, I know my parents used to be like, don't put the radiator on because it costs money, right? It costs money to keep using the heating and putting the heating on all the time, and I'm like very cold-blooded, so I was always freezing at home. Even when it was like warm, I was always cold and like wrapping up. So a lot of the times Brits just like to suck it up, and we'll put like an extra layer of socks on or a couple of jumpers instead of turning the heating on because it costs money. So I think that's probably where you're coming from. You can definitely walk into a lot of houses in the UK during winter and it can be freezing. I don't know why. I personally would have my house always warm because like the radiators would always be on because I cannot stand a freezing cold house. It is perfectly acceptable to eat a bowl of cereal any time of the day, absolutely, and my dad can attest for this. Dad, I know you're watching. He loves a good bowl of cereal in the evening. Cereal culture in the UK, people will have it for breakfast, for a snack, sometimes for dinner. We just love a good bowl of cereal. When someone says cheers to me for everything 1,000 times in a short period of time, saying cheers, like why? Again, it's just a politeness thing. Instead of thank you, we'll probably say cheers. Cheers, mate, cheers. It's not like cheers, it's like cheers. Cheers, mate. Thank you. So in certain parts of the UK, some people will refer to dinner as tea. So it's tea time means it's dinner time, it's time to have my dinner. Not time to have a cup of tea. I could understand how that could be very confusing for Singaporeans. It also depends on the person. I've never personally called dinner tea, but I know if you live up north, you probably call it tea. It's confusing, right? I'm confusing myself. Someone said hug and kisses to everybody. Yes, probably another common thing. Definitely don't see Singaporeans kissing on the cheek. Again, a politeness thing. We'll probably do like one kiss, two if you fancy. We generally greet each other with hugs as well and say goodbye with hugs as well. So yeah, I guess hugging and kissing, I guess that's just like a European thing. Sitting on the grass in the park. It really makes me laugh that Singaporeans think this is strange. I guess because here in Singapore, we all know it's incredibly hot and humid, and generally Singaporeans don't tend to flock to parks to go sit on the grass because it is just so boiling. I mean, I don't even find myself doing it because it just is a bit too hot to do it, especially lying out in the sun. Like, it's just not something Singaporeans tend to do. Whereas in the UK, because we are so deprived of sunlight, and when we get sun and a bit of like warm weather, the first thing we want to do is flock to the parks with a beer and enjoy the sunshine. We need that vitamin D. We're completely deprived like all year round. So yes, we love to sit in parks, congregate with people, have a drink, have a good time. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Oh gosh, I'm very confused by the things that we do, but thank you so much to those of you who left your comments. They were really funny, and I hope I explained some of our weird habits. Again, if you guys have experienced any time in the UK, please do leave your funny observations down below in the comments because I'm always interested to hear them. If you did enjoy this video, please do go hit that like button, give this video a big thumbs up, it really helps me out. Hoping to hit 100,000 subscribers very, very soon, so if you want to join the family, do go subscribe. Thank you guys for watching so much as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.